Will you please stand for the Word of God? Scripture this morning comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 13, verses 1 through 9, and then also verses 18 through 23. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and he sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and he sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. And then he told them many things in parables, saying, A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and they ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop, 100, 60, or 30 times that was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. Verses 18 through 23. Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in their heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
A business executive decided to landscape his property. He hired a woman with a doctorate in horticulture on the advice of others who said that she was extremely knowledgeable. Because this executive was very busy and traveled a lot, he kept emphasizing to the horticulturist the need to create his garden in a way that would require little or no maintenance on his part. He insisted on automatic sprinklers and other labor-saving devices. He went on and on about this. I don't need to be out there doing much work. Make sure this is easy for me. And finally, this woman stopped the executive and said, "There's one thing you need to deal with before we go any further. If there is no gardener, then there is no garden." Or as the tagline in a once popular commercial went, "That isn't how this works. This is not how this works." Jesus started the parable we read today with these words. Listen, a farmer went out to sow. And what Jesus doesn't say is almost as important as what he does say. Some of the things that he didn't say are, a farmer did an impact study on what kinds of seeds would grow best before he went out to sow. A farmer had the soil tested for its chemical balance before he went out to sow. A sower decided exactly what crops he did and did not want before he went out to sow. Jesus didn't say any of that. A farmer went out to sow and spread the seeds everywhere. The sower scattered seeds extravagantly, seemingly more concerned with dispersing the seeds than what might happen with them. Somewhere in our heads, a voice may be saying, "That isn't how that works." Or does it? Since parables are designed to awaken the imagination of the hearer, And to prompt a response, one of the lessons we might take away from this story is that spreading the seed, in this case the good news of Jesus Christ, the love and grace of God, is to be done abundantly. Abundantly. Rather than worrying about whether or not the soil will be receptive, we're supposed to sow seeds of kindness, generosity, love, forgiveness, anywhere and everywhere we have the opportunity. Do we do that? Or sometimes do we kind of get caught up in, I don't want to get involved. I'm not sure I'm ready to do that. I'm not even sure if I like that person. Why would I want to forgive them? Or why would I want to show them generosity? Just recently I read an article that brought home this point to me in a concrete way. How we convey a message makes a difference in how the message is received or acted upon. You see, every night on late night TV, the TV host comes on stage, greets the audience, and launches into the monologue, building a rapport with the listeners. There's laughter, there's music, there is enthusiasm. The point is, how you greet people, how you engage with them makes a difference. If somebody just comes out and starts reading a laundry list of things, you kind of soon begin to lose interest in what they have to say. Well, the church, with a capital C, big church, Christians have the best of news to share of all, the saving grace of Jesus Christ. So what do we start our worship services with? A list of announcements, right? Well, we sing. That is true. We do sing. But all too often, churches start worship or any kind of gathering, not us, with a laundry list of announcements, rules. In almost every meeting of this church, we open with a prayer, we light a candle, we ask for the light of Christ to be with us, we have a devotion. This church is unique in that because I'm going to tell you, not every church does that. When we begin our worship, yes, we do begin with music, but we have to put those pesky announcements somewhere. And I'm pretty sure that at the end of the worship service, you're not listening any more to the announcements than you are at the first. But we do the best we can. But the reason that we come to worship is that we need to share the best we have to offer and not to find out how many meetings we're supposed to attend. We need to ask ourselves what might take root in our lives, in our homes, and in our church if we spread the seeds of the kingdom everywhere we had the opportunity. And what kind of abundant harvest would that produce? But even Jesus pointed out the reality that a lot of seeds fell in places where they would not grow, where the ground was not hospitable, where it fell on hard, packed earth. The birds came to eat the seeds. Other seeds fell on rocky ground without much soil. They might have grown up quickly, but they just as quickly withered. And then there were the seeds that fell among the thorns and were choked out by the thorns that affect all of us. Jesus didn't say that there wasn't any hope for those seeds to grow in those places. He just told the truth that not all seeds take root. And we do know all too well how that works. The parent whose words of guidance and compassion fall on deaf ears knows hard-packed ground. And the businessman who produces a quality product and pays employees a living wage only to see his clients go where things are cheaper is well equated with shallow roots. And the person who's tempted by what the world has to offer to the detriment of the soul understands how seeds can be choked out by thorns. So another lesson we might take from this parable is that whether one sees the seeds as the gifts of God, that is love, kindness, mercy, and forgiveness, or as those who are trying to be faithful disciples, endurance and perseverance are both necessary. Why aren't things easy? Have you ever asked yourself that? Why aren't things easy? I think God understood who we were, and maybe on some level we have to work for things in order to appreciate the value of them. Endurance and perseverance are necessary. And Jesus makes it clear that the evil one looks for any opportunity to snatch away the seeds from any kind of fruitfulness. Followers of Jesus Christ must be prepared to withstand hardship, persecution, or temptation. Because, in case somebody hasn't shared this with you before, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you're immune from those things. One single page out of John Wesley's journal reads like this: May 5th, a.m., preached at St. Anne's. They asked me not to come back. May 5th, p.m., preached at St. John's. Deacons said, get out and stay out. May 12th, preached at St. Jude's. Can't go back there either. May 19th, preached on the street. Got kicked off the street. May 26th, preached in a meadow. Chased out of the meadow when a bull was turned loose during the service. Having faith is a gift from God, and being willing to persevere in the face of difficulty is also a gift from God. Sowing the seeds might not be the hard work, but waiting to see what the benefit will be can be very hard work indeed. There's a Native American tale of an opossum watching a seed grow, and this tale actually has a lot more interest to me now that I live somewhat in the country, having met my own personal possum and raccoon. The opossum visited with his good friend, the raccoon, at his home near the river. The opossum marveled at the raccoon's beautiful garden, and he wished that he could have one as well. So the raccoon told him what to do, and the opossum eagerly vowed to do the hard work necessary, asked for and received some seeds. He rushed home with his treasure, buried them amid much laughter and song. He went inside to clean up and go to bed. And the next morning, the opossum got up to see how beautiful his garden would be. There was nothing. The ground looked no different than it had the day before. So, angry and frustrated, the opossum shouted to the buried seeds, "Grow, seeds, grow!" Have y'all ever done that? He pounded the ground. He stomped his feet, but nothing happened. And soon a large crowd of forest animals gathered to see who was making all that noise. So the raccoon came over to investigate with all the others. After the raccoon climbed out of the attic of my house, "What are you doing, opossum?" he asked. "Your racket has awakened the whole forest." The opossum railed about having no garden, and then turned to each seed and commanded it to grow. When the animals began to mock the opossum for his silly actions, he only screamed louder. And at last the raccoon spoke up once more. "Wait a minute, possum," he said. "You can't make the seeds grow. You can only make sure that they get sun and water, and then watch them do their work, because the life is in the seed, not in you." As the truth sank in, the opossum ceased his yelling, began to care for the seeds as the raccoon instructed, watering them regularly and making sure to get rid of any weeds that invaded the garden. Although on some days when no one was watching, he still shouted a bit. And then one glorious morning, the opossum wandered outside to see the multitude of beautiful green sprouts that dotted his garden. And just a few days later, beautiful flowers began to bloom. With uncontrollable excitement and pride, the opossum ran to his friend, the raccoon, and invited him to witness the miracle. And the raccoon took one long look at the thriving garden and said, "You see, opossum, all you had to do was let the seeds do the work while you watched." And yes, the opossum said, finally remembering the wise words of his friend the day before, but it's a hard job watching a seed work. In the life of a Christian, it is a hard job to watch as a seed works. I think even Paul spoke about this when he said that a certain one planted and another one watered and another one was there when the crop came in. The work that is being done for Jesus Christ in the life of New Fountain United Methodist Church didn't start last week. It started many years ago with the faithful witness of many faithful people. And over time, God has allowed seeds to grow and great, beautiful gardens to thrive and beautiful flowers and maybe a couple of weeds. It is a hard job watching a seed work, but perhaps even harder is trusting that we have an extravagant God who will provide an abundant harvest, whether or not it all comes from good soil. Because all of us have to admit we've known seeds that have fallen on some really rocky ground, and we would have laid even money that it would never sprout. And yet the life is in the seed, not in us. And somehow or another, that seed did take root, and it did sprout, and a great and glorious flower came from it. It's a hard job. Novelist B.B. Moore Campbell writes, some of us have that empty barrel faith, walking around experiencing and expecting things to run out, expecting that there isn't enough air or water, expecting that someone is going to do you wrong. She said, the God I serve told me to expect the best, that there is enough for everybody. I'm just brimming inside to say, our God is an abundant God. Even when we think we have nothing, we have the best gift of all, the love of Jesus Christ. Things begin to work out. We have to have perseverance. We have to have persistence. This parable ends with a miraculous outcome, 30, 60, 100 times what is expected when the seeds fall on good soil. My friends, being open to the abundance of God takes commitment and practice. Because I'm going to tell you, all too often I find myself yelling at the seed. And that isn't what this is about, and it isn't how it works. Good soil is that part of us that seeks to let God affirm us and to stimulate us to produce the kind of caring and generous spirits that only an incredibly extravagant God can produce. The seed of that is already inside of us. It was nurtured and watered in your baptism. No matter what you think you lack, the seed is already there. And as Christians, what we're called to do is to give it some sunshine and to water it on occasion and to love it and to trust that God will use it for good. Jesus said, listen, a sower went out to sow seed. Let those with ears hear. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.